Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mooney and today we're going to talk a little bit more DIY. Small confession here, this is the third time I have tried to shoot this video because I ramble in it. I'm going to try to stay on point. Y'all hang with me. It may get rambly, but y'all hang on here. So the thing I want to cover in this video is getting to know your flavors. And the best way to do that as a new mixer is single flavor testing. Single flavor testing is my main point for this video, but we're going to briefly touch on steeping and we're going to talk about notes and taking notes, as well as flavor notes, of course. But it does kind of run into the three, they do kind of run together. But let's start with single flavor testing. This is something that's very important to a new mixer. Once you get really familiar with your flavors, you can look at things and go, yeah, I want that, yeah, I want that, yeah, that and that can swap. But the way that you get familiar with it, at least in the beginning, is single flavor testing. So what I do is I get these little bottles. I got these off of eBay. I got like 100 bottles for like 10 bucks, if even that. These are the little really thin silicone bottles. Use them once and chuck them. I don't reuse and wash these. But what I do with them is when I get a new flavor in, I go to ELR, eliquidrecipes.com. I look up that flavor, I add it to my stash, and then I look for first two pieces of information that are on there. One is the average quantity or average percentage used for a single flavor recipe, which means just that one flavor by itself, or that one flavor and sweetener. And then I look at the average percentage used in a mix, and I mix up one bottle at each of those percentages, just so I can get a feel for where those flavors lay. Depending on what the flavor is, and here we go with steeping, depends on how long you need to let it sit before you try it the first time. I really don't try anything off the shake. I usually wait at least 24 hours. In the beginning I did, but it really was not productive with it, and I made a lot of notes that were not necessary. You're going to be taking a lot of notes that are necessary. So taking ones that aren't, just let it steep for a day. Make it up one day, come back the next. If you mix on the weekends, mix it up on a Friday afternoon, or mix it up the day that you get it after work, before work, or with the way things are right now, whenever it comes in, and come back to it the next day. Just let it sit overnight. And take notes on what you think of the flavor. On both of your concentrations, and then let it steep. If it's a fruit, especially a light fruit, usually 24 hours to 2 or 3 days is usually good. It's usually going to peak about then, but still let that steep and try it at a week. Try it at a week and a half, 2 weeks, because some flavors like TFA strawberry ripe is very popular. Unfortunately, a lot of people are strawberry blind to it, but to me, after about a week, it starts to kind of decline in taste. So if I'm putting it in a cream or a custard that's a heavy custard, then it's going to need to steep. If I want the strawberry flavor to be very forward, through the notes and things, I have learned that to my taste, it's better to go ahead and make up your custard base, your cream base, and let that steep out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then go back and add the strawberry to it, give it a good shake, and put it back on the shelf, and let it sit for the next 2 weeks, week, whatever it is that you're letting that one steep out at. And then the strawberry will be much more flavorful to me. Now, some people say that it doesn't lose flavor. Some people say they can't taste it at all ever. So it goes back to that whole thing about taste being subjective. Strawberry blindness is pretty prominent in the mixing community. It's fairly prominent in the vaping community in general. But you have, you know, creams and custards that need 2 or 3 weeks to steep, the heavier stuff. If you're mixing a tobacco, I haven't actually used any tobaccos myself except for the RY4, and I just bought that recently. But the heavy, dark tobaccos take a month to steep. Some even recommend letting them steep longer than that. See, we've gotten off into steeping. So we'll get in depth in steeping. I promised in another video. I've got a list made up, and I'm kind of just going to read off most of it for what I have found and from what others have told me as far as general rule goes. But there is also the rule of if it tastes good, vape it. So you find something you like. If it tastes good to you at 2 days, you want to vape it, go ahead. Just because we recommend steeping it, just because I do, because somebody else does, doesn't mean that you have to. If it tastes good to you at 2 days, vape it at 2 days. You know, it's only going to get better. But if you like it then, go for it. So that's my just kind of touching on steeping. Notes, you're going to take a lot of notes. I'm going to touch on that for a second here. So you're going to take a lot of notes. And yeah, I know I've bounced around and I'm rambling. Sorry. But I hope this is making sense. Notes are very important. I've showed my folder on here before. I have this that I keep my printed notes in. I take notes on the computer, which is over here. I take notes on my recipe book that's on the Kindle. I take notes with pen and paper. I watch Flavor Talks. I watch Noted. Fresh 03 show. I cannot remember the name of it right now. I watch all of that stuff, and I read the notes that are on ELR. And if I find somebody that on there that I'm familiar with their work, or that I know from Facebook groups or whatever, I kind of take more stock with them. But that doesn't mean that that I'm always going to agree with them, and that doesn't mean that somebody who picked up their first flavor last week isn't going to taste the same things that I do. So I never discount the notes, but I always take them with a grain of salt, because that's always somebody's opinion, and we all know about opinions, right? So that's the thing, is get to know your flavors first. Mix them up like that, let them steep out to the suggested time, but test them along the way. Like I said, I use the 10 ml bottles. If it's your first few flavors that you're testing, and really getting to know them, I would probably suggest going ahead and making up a 30 ml, just because you can, you know, vape it for longer, and vape more of it as it steeps to get those notes that you want to take for yourself. As always, ELR is a great resource. Facebook groups are a wonderful resource. There's several of those that are really good. As with all Facebook groups, there's some of them that are filled with more drama than recipes, but it's Facebook, that's the way it goes. So that's been my flavor talk for today, so to speak. I hope you have enjoyed this. Thank you for watching very much. I really appreciate it. Please give me a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. And down in the video description below, there will be links for advocacy as always. My PayPal link, my fiance's Vinted link. And there's also a survey. The 2020 Vape Survey. If you haven't filled that out yet, please take the time to do it. It doesn't take very long. And yeah, you know, thanks again for watching. Y'all have a good one.